Hi guys. So today I thought I would do kind of more of just a little, this is an off-the-cuff, unprepared video, um, sparked by something in Lindsay at BFCG. She did a Q&A the other day that made me, like, I left a comment on her video, and now I was thinking, oh hey, actually I could maybe do a video about this. So today I want to just talk about some eras in historical fiction that I don't think are, in Christian historical fiction specifically, that I don't feel like are really well covered. I think I'm actually going to cover biblical and historical fiction because obviously biblical fiction is a subgenre of historical fiction. It's maybe not as, I think of them even as separate in my head, but I'm starting to shelve them together. If you see behind me, let's see, you've got some historical over here, and then biblical, and then historical, and then more biblical. So, like, I am shelving them together. I used to shelve them kind of separate. I shelve my books by genre, by the way, in case that, yeah. So, anyways, some areas in history that I think are just not as covered, because we have a lot of historical fiction about the Civil War, American Revolution, the Regency, Regency, so much Regency, which I love. I love me a good Regency. I love all of these eras that I'm naming. They are some of my favorite eras in historical fiction. But some variety would also be nice. So, one era that I'm just going to start with in the Bible, go through basically time periods that I'm thinking are kind of more neglected. So, first, obviously, I would say Genesis 1 through 11. There are some. I know Jill Eileen Smith has one about Eve that she came out with a few years ago that I DNF'd it because there were just some content things, like, between Adam and Eve. I did not like. I loved that opening chapter, like that opening prologue of, like, Michael's point of view of creation. That was great. But I didn't want to read the Adam and Eve stuff. Within the first chapter, there was stuff that made me want to DNF it. So I was like, let's go ahead and just stop. So, but Adam and Eve, definitely. Creation. Really, creation, the fall, obviously that's both Adam and Eve. The flood and the Tower of Babel, I feel like, are not well covered. I have one series that is about Noah, and it's right behind my head. You can maybe see the spines that say Noah. And let's see, I have that series. I know I have another series by Casey Barnett Grimco, I think is her name. Book 1 is about Noah. Book 2 and 3 are about, like, Tower of Babel era. Obviously, this series, the, what are these called? Max and Liz series. I don't have book 1 up here. I've loaned it out. But book 1 is about the Ark. But still, like, there's not a lot. And I feel like that would be, Genesis 1 through 11 is kind of important. It'd be nice to have more of that. But I think we have, let's see, next era that I say is probably a little bit lacking is most of Judges. Honestly, Joshua might be a little lacking too. We have this Connie Lynn cassette series here that's, like, during the era of that. But the Conquest would be I have another book too that's about the Conquest. But, like, that's really interesting time period that I think we should do with more of. And then Judges, we have a lot about Deborah and a lot about Samson. I feel like the rest of the Judges aren't really touched on, and I feel like they should be. Obviously, there's lots of David fiction, as there should be. He's kind of important. David is a little bit important in history. And then up through, like, the divided kingdom, I feel like after David, like, everything kind of happens. Like, there's lots of fiction about that. I think, yeah, mostly biblical fiction up to that point is pretty well covered after that. Maybe we could do with more, honestly, in the silent era, and then even before that, the rest, like, when they come back to the land. I know Lynn Austin has a series about that I read that I enjoyed, like, about after they come back from Babylonian captivity. I know Lynn Austin has one. Tessa Afshar has a duology that takes place during Nehemiah. I don't think Mesu Andrews has any. Yeah. Then, like, the silent years, Angela Hunt has a series about those. So the silent years being the years between the book of Malachi and then basically between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that too, more of the silent years. I know that's not technical, but I'm talking about biblical and historical. So, and then I feel like Jesus and the early church are pretty well covered. I mean, we can always use more, but I feel like those are not underrepresented. I know Jamie Ogle has just recently started a series of I don't know if it's a series, but she wrote Of Love and Treason, the a Valentine story, which I have on loan from my library. It came in, but I wasn't ready to read it. I don't have it on loan. I have it on hold. So I just was like, I just waited, put my hold off. And then I think the next one's coming out is about St. Nicholas, I think. So those are like early church, not biblical, but still early historical. I know there was that Bryant. So that would still be like late Roman period. That would still be really interesting to have more of, I feel like. And then, of course, medieval fiction is pretty well represented. Again, I would always love more medieval, but probably more. I know there's some Reformation era. I know that's jumping quite a bit ahead, but I know there's some Reformation era. In fact, I think I have one right there. That one, I think, is about John Calvin. I think that's the one about Calvin, which was actually a pretty good book. I'm not Calvinist, but I still liked that book. I want to say he's got one about John Knox, too. Does he have one about Wycliffe? Douglas Bond is the author's name. He might have one about Wycliffe, too. I don't know if he has one about Luther. I've read another one about Luther by Jody Headland, about Luther and his wife. It's been a long time since I read that one, though. Yeah, more Reformation era fiction. And then this is also Reformation era, this series here. It's about King Henry. This one is about Anne Boleyn, I want to say, To Die For. The Secret Keeper is about, wife number 6. Henry VIII's sixth wife, Catherine something or other. Obviously not Catherine of Aragon, because she's the first one. The one that outlived him, Catherine Parr? Does that sound right? I think that's right. There's too many books in front of it for me to try to pull it out. And then the last one is actually about Queen Elizabeth the first, obviously. It'd be weird to jump from Catherine Parr to Queen Elizabeth the second. But that was, again, haven't read that in years, but that was a good series. But I would like more of that time period. More of the time period of like the English Civil War. That would also be cool. I've read at least one book set then, but still. Douglas Bond, this guy also has a series of like the Scottish Covenanters, and there's another one down here somewhere that's about them. I would love more of that. That's a really cool time period. And like the setting that Bond wrote was incredible. In fact, there is still a line from one of those books. He tells his son is an archer. The dad tells the main character, like at one point, this is not really spoilers, let fly in the name of God, and just that keeps ringing in my mind. I love that. The Scottish Covenanters were like, the king wanted to make everyone Anglican, and the Scottish Covenanters wanted to stay basically Presbyterian, right? Scots are Presbyterian, right? Yeah, I thought so. So they wanted to stay Presbyterian, and so that makes sense with Presbyterians too. They covenanted together to defy the king, basically. And that's just a really fascinating time period in history, I learned. So yeah, love more of that. Then we have lots of books about American colonization. I know this list is focused on American history and British history, like generally. American colonization, though, is well covered. American Revolution is very well covered. I would like more about the War of 1812. That's a really cool time period. I know, what's her name? I just finished a book by her today, Rosanna M. White. She has a trilogy that is like the Culper Ring Spy series. And I loved that series. That was really great. But there more of that, please. Book 1 was during the Revolution, Book 2 was during the War of 1812, and Book 3 was during the Civil War. More of that kind of thing. Also, that series was just really good. If you like spies and you like historical fiction, really recommend that series. That was great. Trying to think of like other time periods. So anyway, also just between the War of 1812 and the Civil War, in like, I know there's a lot of like Western books. I'm not necessarily considering, there's lots of that. What I'm talking about is like in that pre-war period, in the more civilized areas of the country, would be really neat. Also, jumping back across the Atlantic, French Revolution. One of my favorite classics is set during the French Revolution, Scarlet Pimpernel. That is incredible. That is an incredible book, and I think more in that time period. I know there was one released last year or something that I think was French Revolution. I don't actually know if I've ever read a like Christian historical fiction other than Pimpernel, which technically it was historical fiction when it was written, and I think it was at least nominally Christian. Most classics are nominally Christian at least, but not any like modern day Christian historical fiction romance that were set there. And that would be really fascinating. I would love more of that. Yeah. Anyways, World War One. I know I kind of have jumped quite a bit through history here. More World War One fiction though would be wonderful. And also, like the pre-World War One era too. I feel like we don't talk about Edwardian. Is that what that is? Is that Edwardian or is that Victorian? There's a lot. I think there's some Victorian fiction, not as much as Regency. Regency, as we all know, Regency just kind of floods the market. Which again, not complaining about. Love the Regency stuff, but maybe we could branch out a little. Yeah. So World War One, and then I don't read a lot of modern stuff, so really much past World War One because the Roaring '20s I don't care much about, honestly. Great Depression. I mean, I feel like we do have some covering that. Same with, and then of course we have a glut of World War II books. There are so many World War II books. And then post that, I am not as interested in because that is getting into modern stuff, and so I'm not as interested in that as much. Although maybe more Cold War era books set in America. Like, I don't feel like we have a lot of American set Cold War books, actually. We probably do. I just don't read them very much. But, like, the ones that come up, of course, the ones that I'm thinking of are also, I know that people talk about, I've not read them, but people talk about, like, some middle grade ones set, I think they're middle grade, YA middle grade set in the Russian bloc. But, like, I don't know, something set, like, around the time of JFK assassination or something. That'd be cool. But anyway, so that's just a rambly video of me talking about some historical fiction eras I wish were more represented. Did I miss any that you think should be more represented? Or do you think there are some that are well represented that I thought were underrepresented? In which case, tell me about those books because I would like to know. Yeah. Let's see. I think that's it. So please like and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.